Well, hello out there, planet Earth, and happy Friday. We are into November, and I have officially been married for 15 years. Can you believe someone would put up with me for that long? Me, of all people? It's Friday, and it's always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. ICYMI, or in case you missed it, SMB stands for Small and Medium Sized Business. For the last 20 years, I've been a consultant for SMBs, a voice and a sounding board for business leaders, advocating on their behalf, their employees too. I believe very strongly, people, in sharing stories, providing perspective, and creating connection. So every single Friday, you can find me here on talkradio.nyc doing just that, lending what's left of my mind and my voice to this radio show where I interview SMB leaders as well as trusted advisors. One thing that I've noticed rather consistently over the years is some of the best thought leadership for SMBs, it happens on Friday. Just about that time we feel the freedom of the weekend coming. However, we're also anxious to start the weekend. These crucial pearls of wisdom, they're overlooked, they're eased aside, they're forgotten in favor of our fun activities and our freedom from the office. Here on the show, we take advantage of that weekend freedom and clarity, and we discuss popular topics that are on the minds of SMB leaders as well as the folks who give them guidance. Once again, the name of the show, not just to play on words. There is a little bit of method behind the madness here, people. You know it, I know it. You heard correctly. My wife, Jackie, and I have been married for 15 years now. It's pretty amazing that someone, again, would put up with me for that long. I got to say, just knowing me, you guys get to know me a little bit over the last 3 years. She's been dealing with me for 20, and we've been married for 15. I was hoping for our anniversary that we would have some alone time from the kids. You know, there's a picture of my kid when she was a baby. She's 11 now. I have an 8-year-old now. I was hoping we'd have some alone time from the kids. And she would wear what's referred to as the unmentionables or intimate wear, things like that. However, as many of you know who've been married for 15 years now, it's something that might be on the wish list for a little longer compared to years ago. But hey, a guy can dream, can't he? You know, when I looked up the idea of unmentionables, because I was just getting in that mode of thinking before I was doing the show today, unmentionables are a person or thing that is too shocking or embarrassing to be mentioned by name. And the example that was given in the definition said, wearing nothing but fig leaves over their unmentionables. So sometimes the unmentionables are the clothes, sometimes it's the actual equipment. But today we're going to talk about something else, something that's defined as impossible to touch, which sounds more like the 15-year anniversary type of activities, or incapable of exact description or value. Today we are going to talk about the intangibles. So a lot of the valuable aspects of a business can be intangible. You can't really touch it or feel it or put a value on it. There's the intellectual property behind the innovations that drive the business. There's the contribution of individual people and teams in and outside the business. There's the culture and perspectives of the decision makers and of the work atmosphere. Every business has a different culture. There's the network of providers, partners, investors, clientele, what have you, that make up the business. Well, my special guest and colleague of the talkradio.nyc network is an extensively experienced intellectual property attorney. He has clientele and life experiences across a wide range of business to business and business to consumer industries, including food and beverage, fintech, and other software. Entertainment, fashion, life sciences, there's a whole list of these things. You can't wait till you hear this guy's resume. In addition to all of that, he has his own special guest that he himself meets with on a weekly basis right after my show on the network, where he discusses key business and legal issues tied to the intangible aspects of companies. Talk is cheap. We know that. I talk to you guys about it every week. We're on talkradio.nyc. We don't want this to just be talk. The idea, once again, let's use some insight that we get here today on the business landscape and create some more impact on Monday. That's it. Far too often, the businesses I deal with, they're focused on some type of product that's going to solve all of their problems. The shiny new mousetrap, the magic wand, whatever it is. One thing I've seen rather consistently, again, over the years, products change every day. Whether you're talking personal or business, every single day they're different. There's no substitute for surrounding yourself with the right people first and having a nice tangible process to actually achieve your goal. When you do that, the right products will be there when you need them, everyone. You got to have the right people first. So I know that my guest today is by far and away the right person for this discussion because it is none other than Matthew Aspel, partner at Offit Kerman and host of Intangify right here on talkradio.nyc. So a little bit about Matthew. Actually, a lot of bit about Matthew. I went to go cut down his bio, and it was all good, so I couldn't. Matthew assists clients in clearing, obtaining, enforcing, and defending trademark rights in the U.S. and throughout the world. He provides advice on patents, trade secrets, copyrights, domain names, related areas. He's got a background in entertainment, information technology, and medicine, and a passion for global language, culture, and food. He works comfortably with clients in diverse industries. He's certified as a social media strategist and software master instructor, often handles complex intellectual property matters arising in the Web 3.0 space, just to complicate the resume a little further. Matthew frequently authors articles on subjects ranging from social media and domain names to licensing, branding, and IT. He's an active speaker and lecturer and a frequent moderator, panelist at the American Bar Association, the International Trademark Association, and other conferences. He's presented at the Fordham IP Conference, the International Association for the Protection of IP annual meeting, and before the Law Society of Ontario. Yes, in Canada. He works everywhere, among others. Matthew is also an adjunct professor of law and frequent guest lecturer at Fordham University. He has also taught at the Cardozo School of Law, Yeshiva University, Columbia University, and the Instituto Superior de Derecho y Economía in Madrid, Spain. He has chaired several committees of the ABA section of intellectual property law, through which he contributed to comments and rulemakings by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and for which he co-produced a series of professional videos illustrating intellectual property rights in different settings. He was appointed chair of the section's newly formed non-fungible token NFT task force in 2022. If you have questions on NFTs, you know where to go now. Prior to becoming a lawyer, Matthew managed emerging singers, songwriters, and recording artists. How cool is that? Trained corporate employees of a pharmaceutical company to use software applications, and studied medicine. His passion for work in intellectual property arises from a deep appreciation and creativity, whether in the form of invention, design, expression, or marketing. Outside of work, Matthew, a native of Philadelphia, PA, enjoys spending time with his wife, a Brazilian staff member of the United Nations, and their twin children. His interests range from music, including songwriting, piano, guitar, and percussion, cooking, scuba diving, and martial arts. Is there anything this guy doesn't do? Who better to speak to all of you about the intangibles of business than the host of Intangify on this station? We're going to talk about my favorite questions around movies, TV, and music because I can't help myself. Joining us today from the Big Apple, New York City, New York, Matthew, welcome to Always Friday. Great to finally have you join me.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
I'm out of breath. You have a long resume. What do you want?
Yeah, you really forgot the part about food. You should have said more about food. Food and unmentionables. Also unmentioned. I got to add that to my bio. Unmentionables.
The Logan, the engineer, is like, it isn't done yet? Jesus. Like, yeah, I know how you feel, man. He's a lawyer. What do you want? So, Matthew, the world that you operate in is one where I see many businesses struggle in all kinds of different areas, not the least of which is trying to protect ideas they haven't completely thought out yet. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. But let's talk to the audience about your journey. Talk to everyone a little bit about how you got where you are today.
Well, it's a long and involved story, but we'll tell you the short version, I suppose, since we only got limited time, right?
Yes, please.
I guess, I had a really hard time growing up is basically what it's about. Everything, I liked doing one thing, but then I didn't want to only do that thing. And then I wanted to do something else. I liked the science of medicine and learning how the body and the brain works. I thought that was awesome. But, I really loved writing music and creativity. And so the only place that I could find the only career I could find that would let me deal with the science and deal with the art and deal with the technology all at the same time was intellectual property law.
Unbelievable. I share so much of your passion and so much of that thought. When I went to the University of Maryland, I was accepted into the scholars program and with a particular vertical in science, technology, and society. And I ended up going to the business school, but it's just representative of I love to know how to put the gun together and take it apart. I love the process. I love figuring things out. But then at the end of the day, I like, networking with everybody and putting them into the vehicles they need to get where they need to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still haven't gone to business school yet. I'll get that into my resume also,
In your spare time, I'm sure you could do it. You look like you have plenty of spare time in your resume.
for sure, for sure.
So wait, so I know, like, my wife's an attorney as well, right? She's barred in New York, she's barred in New Jersey, but you're doing stuff all over the world, it sounds like. So how did, like, the fact that you did work in the entertainment industry and everything beforehand is very cool. I want to hear a little more about that. But how did you start branching out, like, into Canada, into Spain, doing work in the legal world? Let's go.
Well, the nature of intellectual property law is that it's a national right. Governments come up with intellectual property laws. The reason they have them is to try to get people to share what they create. So they create intellectual property laws and they go, listen, if you share what you create, I'll give you a monopoly for a period of time, but I'll give you a monopoly and you get some advantage, right? But it's a national, yeah, but it's a national right. So what happens in today's global world when you're going to ship your products across borders, you're going to provide your services to someone in another country, um, those that often means that you have to really protect your intellectual property in those countries too. So part of my practice, a large part of my practice, is dealing with the laws of intellectual property in all the different countries that my clients are operating. And the small and mid-sized businesses, usually are, someone who starts out in the US and maybe they're in the
Right.
US and Canada. But they expand as they grow and you gotta have to anticipate where they're going.
So along the way, I've done some investigation in this world. With a couple of friends, I've developed some consumer product ideas. And when we investigated things through the USPTO, like as far as protecting the methodology or the utility that we created, it's like, oh, that takes care of the US. But what about the other countries that might take your idea, China, and probably mass produce it, to a point where you have nothing to do with it anymore?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the other aspect of it is that in the US, a lot of people here, we have a perspective about how we go about doing these things, and we apply sort of the US view of what the US laws are and what we understand, even as lay
Right.
people, as business people. Well, the news is that it doesn't work the same way in other countries. So in the US, if you disclose your idea, you still got a year basically to go and pursue your patent. But in most other countries around the world, the fact that you disclosed your idea already has precluded your rights. You're
Great.
just out of luck.
Yeah, well, that sucks when you hear stuff like that. So, again, I joke around mentioning a particular country just now, but, that stuff is right. Like, there's a million different places these days where people might outsource some of their work in development and sourcing and all of that. But if it's protected just in the US, doesn't that give them a little liability wherever they're looking overseas?
Yeah, for sure. They have all sorts of problems that they're inviting for themselves. And it has to be balanced. You're a small business. You aren't going to spend the kind of money that you need to go protect yourself all over the world. So you have to kind of prioritize, where are you manufacturing, where are you going to sell, where is it likely to be counterfeited, certain countries you named, and and then you kind of prioritize it and spread it out over time so it doesn't hurt the wallet so much, right?
Right. And that's the part that I see a lot of businesses struggle with, or even just not just with the money aspect and everything, but with the mentality aspect of it. It's getting hung up on protecting something that's not even a fully thought out idea yet. It's like they don't. It's like they're a partial way through it, and they're trying to protect something that's not even material just yet. Like they'll have a lot of trouble trying to protect it. But I'm sure you see it every day.
Yeah, I mean that does happen all the time, and it's usually premature to start pursuing rights right when you don't have it. But sometimes you can pursue rights in sequence, right?
Yes.
You can do a little bit, and then you can do a little bit more, and a little bit more, and ultimately you have what the final thing is.
Wait, so you're telling me there's a process behind it? Will wonders ever cease? Well, maybe sometimes people will listen to what I'm talking about here. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with Matthew Aspel, partner at Offutt Kerman and host of the Intangify radio show right here on talkradio.nyc. Stay with us.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Aspel, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday. It's always Friday. And it's me, Stephen Fry, your one, your only SMB guy. We are chatting with my friend and network colleague, Matthew Aspel, a partner at Offutt Kerman, attorneys at law, but also host here on the network of Intangify, podcast that talks a little bit about the intangibles of business. So love it when we get to do these types of collaborations, Matthew. I got to kick off the method part of our show here with a little bit of a story out by my fire pit, if you'll indulge me. So every week, this is what I like to do, man. I sit out by the fire pit and take a nice deep breath before we get into it and give a quick perspective. But this one actually gets me amped up a little bit. So you recently started doing a show here on the network, and I started mine a little over 3 years ago. And I made this little logo on just a free logo maker, right? And I did it in August of 2020, and I launched my show in September of 2020. And then, a little over a year later, I started getting emails from somebody called the Wolf of Franchises. I don't know if have you ever seen this guy out there? You're a food and beverage guy. You've had some enthusiasm in the space. Check out this guy's logo that popped up October of 2021. You see that? So, yeah, for those of you not watching out there in TV land, my logo, order of fries with a pair of shades and a microphone as a nose. This guy's logo is like an order of fries with a pair of shades on it. It looks crazy similar to mine. I never saw it before October 21. Never saw any evidence of it before October of 2021. Now, typically, if I was doing something like this, if I'm looking at this type of coincidence, it would really anger me, especially if it was something that I created along the way. And it might, to a little certain degree, it kind of does anger me. But imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, so I'll consider this flattering for the moment. And you know, Matthew, I have spoken to other attorneys along the way where they say, "Oh, I do intellectual property work for podcasts and things like that," and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? There's a fair amount of what I do and how I do it that I feel like shit. Maybe it is intellectual property. I got to deal with it that way." But, I am, for the most part here, I'm trying to be, selfish and selfless at the same time, really doing the best for myself and the best for all the folks that I interview. But I thought this was a good way to kick off the method part of the show here because, this is something that I didn't even think of when I was getting started. I was slapping together a logo with a free logo maker. And like a couple weeks into it, I thought that, you know what, maybe I should do something a little cooler, commission an artist to do it. And I was like, the hell with that. I'm interviewing small, medium-sized businesses. A lot of the work that I do is with SMBs. So SMBs a lot of times don't have time to do that. So they make their own on a free logo maker. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Well, whatever. We'll get into that in another episode. But this is the method part of the show. This is where we talk a little bit about exactly what you do, how you do it, and how you go to market for it. Now, we don't want to send everybody to law school for the next 10 minutes, but you know what to do. Give us a little bit of the method behind your madness, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll even use your example because I think it's really a very helpful way to understand the kinds of issues that people face and what we do about them. So, if you were my client and you came to me with, hey, I came up with this logo 3 years ago, using a free logo maker software. That's an important fact to take note of. And then I discovered this other guy who's using also French fries with sunglasses. I'd have a bunch of questions for you. It would really be, so this free logo maker software, were there some terms and conditions that you agreed to or that were on the website of that logo maker? Maybe you want to send me there and we can look at that, because that might tell me even if you have the right to use this image and, whether forget the other guy, maybe you're in trouble already.
Oh, man. I'm always, well, I live in a house of all women, Matthew. I'm always in trouble. Let's just put it that way. But I've been married for 15 years. I want that pointed out again.
You did point that one out. Yeah. But you didn't say how many of those 15 years you were eating French fries.
Oh, my wife has a thing upstairs. Before we were even married and she took my last name. It says fries before guys. So I know where I stand there.
Priorities.
Yes.
So anyway, you're the client. You come to me with this problem about this guy who's got this French fry logo. Maybe you can put up his logo if you get a second. Yeah. And then my question is going to be, well, what is he doing? What is he using this logo for? And the reason I'm asking that is because I'm evaluating two different aspects of rights that are associated with these images that you've shown me here. I'm looking at the artwork and I'm saying, okay, is this a copyright? Is this an artwork that someone has copied of yours, modified what you've done such that there's an infringement there? But then I'm also looking at it in another light, another form of intellectual property, which is a trademark. And I'm saying, oh, well, you use your logo for a podcast. Does he use his logo for French fry sales? Because if he's in French fry sales, I don't think we should be too worried about him. But if he's maybe got a video blog, I might be a little bit more concerned.
What about we just consider it the distribution of content? Because it seems like it's just a weekly newsletter and he's a consultant as well. And I interview franchise experts all the time on here.
Yeah, so you might have, some basis for an objection there. But then we're going to look into it a little deeper because, inevitably, when you as the client come to me looking for this help, you're angry, as you mentioned, and you're thinking, I got to make these guys stop. And you're not thinking about the possibility that they may have done this before you, that someone else may have done this before you, and that your rights may not be rights at all, or may be much, much less than what you think. On the other hand, I'm looking to see if they're very strong and maybe we can go after these guys, but we have to evaluate these things. So we're looking at what rights are there, when do they come into being, and then should we obtain protections for them? Should we take this image, your image, let's say, and go and register it with the Copyright Office and then register it with the Trademark Office? Did these guys do that? Now, once I have these answers, then we're going to start to evaluate what we should do about it. And possibly it'll get them to stop, or it'll get them to pay you, or we'll get them, to get them to change. Or possibly I'll come back to you and say, yeah, Steve, you should think about maybe, doing something else with your French fries. I'm not so sure.
So it just makes me laugh on so many levels. Who would have ever thought I'd be here talking about this with an intellectual property attorney? I never thought that would happen. But just like the way that you look at your experience and you look at case law and you confer with colleagues and you analyze each case that gets put in front of you, I very often will look at the George Carlin methodology on life with everything. And I don't know if you've ever heard his ranting and raving about everybody's rights, their precious freaking rights that they all have. He's like, yeah, pretty cool deal. You know how we got it? We made the whole freaking thing up. Nobody has any rights. We're all just people.
Well, I thought you were going to curse a little bit because
I was, but I tried to restrain myself a little bit. It's, we're not regulated by the FCC or anything, that, but I try not to drop too many, Jersey talk here just because a lot of times it gets labeled as.
Well, you got cut off there a second.
It gets a lot of times gets labeled as explicit if you just say it too much. So I try to be a little bit, middle of the road with it. But yeah, you're 100% right. I don't know I don't even remember what the name of the logo software is that I used. I don't remember if I never had a right to it in the beginning, but screw that. It was my idea.
Oh, maybe you got a receipt when you downloaded the app. Maybe there's some email. There's sometimes ways to figure this out. You can go and survey what's out there, or whatever, or you can just, operate from assumptions. But that is, for a small, medium-sized business, that's often risky, right? What's going to happen when I go and raise this? Well, the other side's going to go dig it up. So then I'm going to have to deal with the issue.
Yeah, you're right about that. The whole idea of the method and the madness that I love to preach about here every Friday is with this world and the world that you operate in. There's like, it's almost like an inherent blurred line, like for everything, right? It sounds like you agree.
Yeah, totally. Because if it were all so straightforward, you wouldn't need lawyers, right? I mean, I'd be out of a job. There's some analysis and evaluation. There's some science and some art to the madness, right? So method and madness, we've got to look at that, and we got to go, all right, well, what do I think? What could I do? And it's not always about what the end result is going to be. It's not always like, can I win? It's sometimes, can I get leverage? Can I come at it a different way that might force somebody to negotiate with me or to change, or maybe I need to buy them out, right? What am I
Can I grow and prosper?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a lot of the long and short of it, especially in the small, medium-sized business world. It's, I've said time after time again, aside from growing revenues and having money and keeping the lights on, business owners have operating expenses, taxes, and health insurance on their mind at all times. But, this is one of those things where a lot of business owners will still look at their business as their baby. And if their baby includes intellectual property and their own ideas and their own methodology, like, even just my wacko methodology of my show, it's like when I talk about it with people go, oh, you're like Marcus Leonis, like from the Prophet or whatever. It's like, I never even saw that thing until somebody mentioned it. Like, oh, okay. And then I checked it out. All right, some similar sentiments. It's not exactly as wacky as I am, like, but it's a little similar sentiments. Again, to do something like this, about especially small, medium-sized business, and especially in the context that you're working in, it's almost an inherent blurred line of method and madness all the time.
Yeah, it is. It involves, you have to have someone who has an understanding of it, who can then apply that to these facts, figure out what the facts are, and then, make a good, very educated guess based on what's out there.
So in my little studio in my basement here, I have something very nearby, and a lot of it was storage until I started doing the radio show. Now it's like more like intellectual storage, where like there's crap all over the place, but there's the green screen and a little bit of room for me to do my thing here. But I have something in the corner of my room that is a consumer product where one of my buddies that I was working with to develop it, it's something that we took as like a prototype many years ago. And I'll say, it looks like a pile of crap right now at the moment, which is kind of what it's in the middle of a whole piles of other crap in my room. But the whole idea with it was to make shot glass shaped ice cubes. And there's some other things that do that nowadays, like molds, but this was kind of for presentation purposes to do it really, really cool, like on the top of a bar in the city and whatever, where you hang out and do your thing. And a lot of people really dug the idea too. But like we started going down the roads of all the different ways of protecting it and whatever. And it's just like, oh, it'll most likely be ripped off the next day. And we were just like, hey, you know what? This is just a huge pain in the ass when all is said and done. It's like we just kind of put the brakes on it. But it's still one of those things that we haven't really seen the way that we wanted to do it and the way we wanted to protect it and disseminate it yet. So every other day, it's like, you still have that piece of shit in your basement, like, but there was a lot of good stuff behind it. But anyway, like especially when I do my show thing, it's one of these little things that's always nearby me that reminds me of what it's like when you're trying to be a scrappy entrepreneur and do your thing out there. And it's kind of funny when all is said and done. I have a lot of different travels and a lot of different passions, just like you.
Does it function?
At the moment, I'm not really sure. If I plug it in, he did. My guy that worked on this with me is an industrial engineer, industrial designer. It's actually his birthday tomorrow. Shout out to my buddy Adam. Happy birthday, happy 43rd. But he's an industrial designer, a product manager. Like he when we were kids, his room was the fully automated, fully functional, everything that we wanted to do to our cars. Like we wanted to convert it into an airplane. It went to his house and he did it. And
wow.
Didn't matter. He would figure out how to make it happen. So even right next to this jammy, we had something. You remember when the transition lenses came out for the glasses?
Sure.
So I had a brain fart one day. I was just like, hey, you know what? My glasses, I've been wearing glasses since I was 10 years old. I have these transition lenses, but they sometimes don't go back and forth at the time where I want them to. So we came up with the idea of a photochromatic glasses case that had lights in it, like where you put your transition lenses, the glasses in the case, and you flip a switch and it turns them into the sunglasses if you want.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's little weird brain farts like that I feel like come across your desk on a daily basis. But
that's totally true. It is a function of the level of commitment somebody has to the concept and how far they want to see it through. If it's like a neat idea they had and they just said it'd be nice if this happened versus do they want to go through all of the rigmarole that they're going to need to form the business and protect themselves and then get it to market, get it manufactured, get it to market, which is a real significant endeavor. But
commitment to the cause, or perhaps I should be committed for even talking about this on here. But nevertheless, I thought it was a fun topic of conversation. I know we got to take a break. I'm sorry, I get really amped up about topics like this. I was really excited to talk to you today. So, little passion never hurt anybody. But we got to take this break. We'll be right back with Matthew Aspel, colleague of mine here on talkradio.nyc as host of the Intangify podcast. But he's also an attorney at law with Offit Kerman. Stay with us, everybody.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. We are chatting with my friend and colleague, Matthew Aspel, partner at Offutt Kerman. I'm not a colleague of his from the legal world. I'm not a lawyer, even though I play one on TV sometimes. But I am a colleague of his from talkradio.nyc because he hosts the show right after mine, Intangify, talking about the intangibles of the business world. Matthew, this is the madness part of the show. This is the part where we like to share the artistic observational part of what you do with the audience. So it's the stories you have from the field. We talked about things that definitely brush on madness just now, which pretty much defines your entire being in your world. Whether we're talking about copyright infringement of my logo that I drew on a free logo maker by some guy, the Wolf of Franchises or whoever the hell he is, or we're talking about consumer products that I developed in my basement with my buddy 15 years ago that we're talking about potentially bringing to market. Yeah, there's a lot of madness that you have to deal with out there, I'm sure. So let's talk to everybody a little bit about some of the stories that you have from the field.
Sure, I'd love to do that. One of my favorite stories involved a client of mine. This was actually a large business, but it could have easily happened to a small business. They hired a graphic designer. They went out and hired this graphic designer and they said, hey, we need this logo of a particular animal. Let's call it a badger. We need this large wooden badger. No, we need this badger. And, and we want the badger to be our logo. So can you create that for us? Yeah, sure, no problem. Contract, pay the designer. The designer comes back and says, here you go. Here is my nice colored badger. Okay, thank you very much. They pay, they collect the they take the image and they go, okay, we're going to use this now for our products. So they file a trademark application based off of that, and it gets refused by the trademark office. In the United States, the trademark office will look at prior rights that come, prior registrations that have come before and block you if someone has something similar. Sure enough, blocking their application was somebody else who had a badger for pretty similar goods and services. Well, okay, what's that about? So I get this case. I'm a young associate. I look over and I look into it, and I find out from poking around on the internet that that the graphic designer for my client had gotten this image from the internet, from a stock free photo site like Getty Images or Shutterfly or one of those types of sites. Well, that did not bode well because, on those stock free photo sites, you have a license. You don't buy the image, you don't own it. And some of the things they had to swear to when they filed the trademark application were not true. Based on the agreement that they had made purchasing the image. But fine, they got this license, whatever. We might have tried to overcome that, whatever. But the mark that they was blocking them, the prior registration for this other badger, you're never going to guess. It came from the same stock image site, literally the image right next to the one my clients, ended up using.
Wow.
So the client's got the problem. Okay, maybe we can't use this. There's all sorts of reasons why they couldn't. But then we're like, okay, well, can we overcome this refusal? We can cancel these guys. We can get them out of our way and get this through. The only problem is that if we ever get this trademark registration, somebody else will be able to block us or cancel us later because they'll know that we didn't have a right in the first place. So we had to figure out what to do about it. And we had to tell them, go get yourself a new graphic designer and tell the graphic designer to draw you a badger. Don't take it from the internet, and don't show them images of the badger you currently have. And
no badges. We don't need no stinking badgers.
No badges. So that was a really fun case where it was just like, it was like both parties had done the same wrong thing. So the message here, I know I'm not supposed to talk about the message yet, but at least in that, the message from that story is, if you're going to create a logo, don't pull it from the internet. Don't make changes based on something you found on the internet and think that, oh, now it's mine, because you're going to run into a very expensive problem.
Right. About that. No, just kidding. Yeah, so I never thought of talking about the logo that I made on a free logo maker could be fodder for so much conversation. It really is. That's awesome. I can make I can make a whole career out of teaching intellectual property with this. Apparently, it's great. So what else we got? What about some consumer products? What about some like things that are utility oriented, where somebody had like a crazy idea for a new gadget or new invention? Anything like that ever come across your desk?
There have been amazing ones. The problem with talking about those is that
They're
usually they
specific.
are extremely confidential,
Yeah.
and you have to keep that secret.
Yes.
Um,
I don't want
but
you to compromise. I told you before. You don't need to compromise.
but it's about sort of that uniqueness of it. So like,
Yes.
how do I tell you about what the invention did or does without, and then change the names to protect the innocent. I can't tell you about what the invention is.
So once it's released, though, it's all good, right? So here's an interesting one. I'll give you and see if it sparks any memories or whatever. So when I went to talk to somebody about really taking our prototype and creating something that was real afterwards, we went to a firm based in New York City, also downtown. And they have they take a retainer, they take your idea, they build you a thing. It's still your property, whatever. Like there are some really cool places like that. So we're going around their facility and touring everything and they're talking about their recent work that actually hit mass market and everything. They had somebody who had created, on the back of your toothbrush, how it has the couple of dots and everything, basically to clean all the crud off your tongue if you want to use it for that. That was something that they worked on, that somebody who came up with the idea generated the prototype, and then they sold it to one of the big, like I think it was Colgate or something like that, for like $38 million. That I was sitting there like blown away. I was like, I'm trying to come up with this crazy display thing for the top of a bar in New York City, and somebody did something on the back of a toothbrush, and they're styling now.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you ever see those little cardboard cylinders that you put your coffee cup in so it doesn't
Yeah,
like there was a patent on that.
I used one today.
Yeah, so there's like really cool things you would never imagine that people are able to protect. A lot of the patents I end up filing are usually software related or tied to software, because that's sort of what most or a lot of innovation is today. There's of course there's pharmaceuticals and medical devices, and occasionally you get somebody who does something mechanical or a machine, but you very frequently you'll get these sort of software types of inventions.
Well, since we went down that road, not that we have all the time in the world, which I feel like I need to talk to you about all this stuff, but one of the biggest positive pieces of madness is in the midst of doing all of this type of work that you do, you're now running a show on the network, Intangify, about the intangibles of business. That, and along with your resume that I sit and talk about, you are delving into the Web 3.0 space with some of this stuff. Like, is this like an intangible of the intangibles, like kind of discussion?
Yeah, well, that's hot stuff. I mean,
It's hot,
generative
yeah.
AI.
Can't touch it, but it's hot.
Well, we're touching it. We're touching it. I mean, that there's generative AI, and its significance in as it relates to intellectual property. Just 2 days ago, the President Biden did an executive order about dealing with generative AI issues, tying in intellectual property and some other agencies that are dealing with that. So yeah, it's red hot, and NFTs. Seems like that was hot until AI came out, and then it sort of disappeared for a while. But there's some fun cases going on. There's this guy who appealed his case regarding Meta Birkins, which are NFTs for digital handbags that he sold at very high amounts of money. But the digital handbags are images of the Hermes well-known expensive handbags.
So here's a virtual one. It's almost as good as the one you can actually carry crap in.
Well, it was more like an artistic, or at least arguably an artistic rendition of it. But didn't even have functionality. You couldn't use it in a metaverse or anything, but yeah, it was, people paid for those images large amount of money as collectors, thinking it'd be valuable.
So two things came to mind, and then we got to go to break. So there's somebody who is part of my brother's married family that is into the cryptocurrency and blockchain space and everything. So into all of it for a long time. So he was an early adopter of Tesla. He actually got one of the few Tesla Roadsters in the country, like the really fast like coupe thing. And after he gets it, he had somebody like a real well-known artist do this ridiculous, absurd paint job on the Tesla Roadster. And now I think that the paint job is being marketed as an NFT on the car, or whatever. Like it's something so crazy convoluted. I'm like, I don't understand any of it really, but it's something. It's like, well, the value of the car was ridiculous anyway. The fact that a well-known artist put a paint job on it made it more valuable, and then they did something to digitize it somehow and made it additionally more valuable.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to understand about the NFTs and blockchain, I mean, what all that stuff is doing. I mean, even our engineer made a comment about it. It actually is very interesting, and because what it does is it takes things on the internet, things that can be copied, digitally copied, and you could make unlimited numbers of exactly the same duplicates, and now turns them into something that are non-fungible, meaning you can create a limited number. You can create a limited number of prints. So
Yes.
something ubiquitous now becomes valuable because
Yeah.
it's rare. And that's really what NFTs do.
So I'm going to share the comment that Logan made after we come back from this break, because I want to see your reaction on the air for it. I love this type of stuff. But we got to take this break. We'll be right back with my man, Matthew Aspel, partner at Offit Kerman, attorneys at law, and host of Intangify right here on talkradio.nyc. Stay with us.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Aspel, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc, Fridays at noon Eastern, and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to Always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. Not just me, we're chatting with Matthew Aspel, partner at Offit Kerman, attorneys at law, and host of Intangify here on talkradio.nyc. Matthew, awesome conversation. I love this area of discussion. I feel like I could kick it around for days, and I know you could kick it around for days, and even our engineer might be able to kick it around for days. Logan is by far the most engaged engineer, like I've said before, that I've had, and yeah, I'm not sure which comment you were going to share, but here's the one I wanted to share. So last segment, Logan said, I remember that someone on YouTube tried to patent the word react for their channel. What do you say when people call you up with bonehead ideas like that?
Well, actually, what we do is we re-educate them a little bit, right? You can't patent a word, but you can trademark a word. So, if somebody wanted to own React, I mean, Facebook wanted to own Face. You can own a trademark in a word as it relates to a good or service you offer. So, sometimes you just have to steer people the right direction. It doesn't matter if they don't get the terminology right.
Right. Right. Zuckerberg doesn't own enough. He has to own the word face. Absolutely. So, and talking about bonehead ideas, the other comment was, I think this was the one you were thinking about. Logan said, NFTs were always a bit of a bonehead idea to me. Here, pay a large sum of money for a simple picture of an ugly monkey. I mean, yeah, sometimes I feel like that's what it's about, like a picture of a cat, limited print. Yeah, okay, it's $3 million. I don't understand.
Your commentary really is more about the underlying artwork than it is about the NFT. So like we could have an NFT associated with this episode. We could have an NFT associated with your logo, or with something that we all agree is artistically important or beautiful or aesthetic, whatever.
Except for my face, it's face for radio.
We could even consider doing that.
Edit it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I told you a little bit about my crazy brain fart of an idea with the glasses case for the transitions lenses, and we're back and forth saying, oh wait, transitions, oops, that's a trademark. That's right, transitions lenses was an actual company. And then you said you had something to do with that. Is that true? Is that true? Did you ever do that? Was that part of your world?
I was involved in dealing with trademarks for that company, and yes, I got to work on some of those trademarks.
Very cool. I see. It's like, especially when there's such real world application to certain things, where it's, again, I'm very big on the story piece. You are too. Most people who really can identify with other human beings out there do like the story piece. But that's just so cool when you have a story like that from your travel. And you're like, yeah, let's, those glasses that you wear to turn into shades when you walk outside. Yeah, I had something to do with trademarking that.
Well, I have ones that are a lot more fun.
Oh yeah.
I got to work on the trademark for the Edge, from YouTube.
Yeah.
And I currently represent a major recording artist, Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
To all of his trademarks. So
awesome. Loved him in the dirt. That was I was addicted to that movie for a little bit. Read the book, loved the movie. So this is the message part of the show, Matthew. I know we could talk about this all day, and we might, if Logan lets us, we might just talk about this all day. But this is the part where we bring things home, where we share the sound bites that we want people to remember over the weekend. We've kicked around a few things here that people definitely need to pay attention to. It's like, don't necessarily bite off more than you could chew if you're a small, medium-sized business. A lot of times they find that out the hard way when they get slapped with a bill for $80,000 for something they've barely thought out yet. But, what can you really drop on everyone over the weekend? And obviously, if they have these types of needs, which a lot of people do, we want them to call you. But, what can we tell everyone over the weekend that they can really take action on come Monday as far as, how they should be looking at this field of expertise and topic?
Sure, there's nothing like coming up with a tagline on the fly. But let's go back to something you told me before the start of the show, which I knew as well, which is, frei in German, frei, means free. And let's just unpack what free means. Okay, so something that's freely accessible to you is not necessarily freely usable. That is a message to take home. Don't just use it just because you can access it. Probably, the other one that I would go towards, when you talk to IP attorneys, what we always say about what IP is? We say, oh, it's sort of a sword and a shield. I don't buy that. Okay. They say that because it can be used as an offensive thing, as a weapon, as a way to attack somebody who's doing something you don't like. And they can be used to protect you from somebody else's attack, right? But sword and shield is so antiquated. It's really more like, a tool for the wrestling match.
Right.
Or sometimes it's a nuke.
Sometimes it's a nuclear bomb.
sometimes it's a nuke, right? I mean, you know, bringing someone to court or and taking some strong action against somebody is a significant endeavor that costs a lot of money and puts people on the defensive and can be a way to get people to resolve problems, to resolve conflicts.
It's sometimes the best offense is a good defense. You hear all kinds of quotes like that, but yeah, man, whether it's the sword or the shield, it's kind of like the method and the madness with you. It's everything is kind of all melded into one. You need to have both, really, but you need to get in touch with somebody like Matthew. There is nobody like Matthew if you've heard his resume, so you got to get in touch with Matthew himself. His number direct at his office in the city, 929-476-0048. Matthew.Aspell, Asbell, at Offit Kerman, OFFITKURMAN. Attorneys at law. He's the man. Intellectual property needs. You got to call this guy. Matthew, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward and hope people stick around for Intangify coming up next.
And I'm sure that they will. They have to, man. It's once you get started with this, who can break away? But before I let you go officially, we're going to share the answers to my questions with the audience real quick because I've talked entirely too much during this show, and you're supposed to talk a lot. I'm not necessarily supposed to, but I get really excited. So, you said your favorite movie character is Arthur Bach from Arthur, Dudley Moore's character. Hanging out with Liza Minnelli. If not, you guys haven't seen the movie, Arthur is an alcoholic billionaire playboy. He has to marry a woman he doesn't love or he'll be cut off from his vast, vast fortune. So I wish I could say I could identify with that. I've never had the ability to take on a vast, vast fortune. So, hopefully, we'll do some of this and we'll sell some NFTs of my episodes here. And, we'll make the vast, vast fortune that we were always looking for. We could be an Arthur type of playboy.
He's taking the knife out the cheese. You think he wants some cheese?
That's me hanging out with you, by the way. You said your favorite TV shows. You gave me Friends, which has been a big topic of conversation in the last few weeks with the passing of Matthew Perry. Terrible news. Great show. Always was. Always. As much as it would drive me crazy in my house with all the ladies watching it, I would always be laughing, so they know I always kind of liked it. But also you mentioned Outlander, which is a show about extreme passion and has a little time travel in it and some cool historical stuff. So I'm into that as well. Totally love it. You can always tell a music guy when you ask the music question, what's your favorite musical instrument and who's the artist you'd like to hear play it? You started rattling off all kinds of stuff. You said the piano and Billy Joel, which is probably the most popular answer ever on my show, but also a popular one with me because I love the piano and I play it myself. You said percussion you like as well, with Zakir Hussain playing the tabla, which I never thought I'd find a picture that I could use for this of Zakir Hussain, but the internet gives you anything. And then you said you love girls with guitars. Your favorite performing songwriter of all time, Jonathan Brooke. Never heard of her, but then I started researching her and found out a whole bunch of stuff about her. Then you came right back to the piano and said you'd love to hear Donald Fagen from Steely Dan play some piano music. Love him as well, have a bunch of his albums. But the fact that you used to manage singer-songwriters before becoming a lawyer, that's a crazy, crucial, amazing part of your story. The type of law you practice around these topics of conversation, perfect combination of art and science and madness and method for someone's entire life work. Right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. The least you could do is agree with my craziness. But thank you so much once again for being on the show, Matthew. Really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
We got to go, people. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on talkradio.nyc before Intangify. Bye-bye, everyone.